Okay, 3-player game done. And
it feels great to be Jeb.
And it's the only time it's great to be Jeb is after you play
a game for the first time.
A game for the first time, which he usually always wins, which is really sad. But I don't know; these things just click with him instantly, and other people need a few seconds to you know.
Well, it was really
either that or he just gets lucky. I don't know which one it is.
This time I think it was, because I felt I was behind the entire time, and then I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to go for that big haul, and that's the only reason I went for it.
If even the difference between, I don't know if you lose if you take a smaller haul.
Yeah, I think I was ahead by like 30 points, and the Great Haul was 25, so it's like...
Yeah, so if you take a smaller haul, you still... I still
but I just felt like I was behind when you guys were doing your stuff.
So anyways...
Probably because you were fast shooting all the spells.
So... I didn't utilize this. I think I overkilled on the cart spell. I don't think I needed to do it as many times as I did.
Yeah, because I saw you do a lot of 2 carts come down instead of 3.
Well, that's because all I had on the board. But I figured, not having to worry about what kind I had on the troll was a lot better.
Towards the end I did see you had like a huge pile of carts.
Well,
and
then before Gary blocked that last statue, I thought I would need multiple carts to get everything to where they needed to be. So it was like, I don't want to mess with making sure that I have a fire or a moon or whatever the other one was. Type, and if you're going to have wild, that's always better on I don't care what resource it is.
Right.
So anyways, we're already starting to talk about the gameplay. I'm glad I backed it. I think this actually adds something that I can't think of that I really have in any other game in terms of, I know there are space games where you actually have ships that have like cargo halls and stuff like that where you have a little bit of this, but not when the whole game is focused around how am I going to build this, how am I going to connect stuff.
Right.
And I wouldn't say that actually building, like, I wouldn't say that it gets crowded too fast, and I wouldn't say that it's like, you know, when you actually play a game of Tetris, it's like, it can be tough to where you're going to put that. I don't think this game is so hard where you're like, oh crap, I have no design I can use, I have nowhere I can put it. Now, you might be screwed of making the exact pattern you wanted, but you don't ever get eliminated from being able to put something down, even though we've only played this once.
Yeah, I'm sure the 5-player game probably gets tighter, maybe. Well,
yeah,
you saw how the
board is huge on that side, so I don't even think you're going to run into that big of a problem on that. I mean...
Oh, and plus you up it to 5 people, there's still the same amount of tunnels.
So they're going to go away and things like that. So anyways, if you're wondering if that's an aspect, no. So again, I like the resource management in it is probably not that different than what you've seen in a lot of other games.
The thing that you got to kind of keep in your head when you're playing is that the trolls aren't generating these resources every turn. It's whenever you bring a new troll in is when they get new resources on them. So you're kind of thinking like it's a finite supply, and you got to try to do as much as you can with that before bringing another troll in, so you're not wasting what finite stuff you already have.
Yep, and also the fact is that the stuff on the troll won't get replenished if you generate resources again, because unlike like say Imperial Settlers where everything gets wiped out except what you have in storage, this stuff stays on the board until you either use it or put it in your supply. So that's another interesting mechanic in terms of strategy, because you can't necessarily keep building up and getting a big stockpile without moving, either spending stuff or moving stuff, or you're not going to do very well, because you need to, as in any resource game, you need to be able to maximize those resources to the best you can, and so that means you need empty trolls when you produce, And the only way you get that is by you being able to get them into the supply, which there's limited ways to do that. Usually, a spell card.
Yeah, the when you read about the workshops, when you do the exchange and it goes to your supply, I was like, okay,
that makes a lot of sense.
Helpful.
That really makes the workshops very, very. Not only is the exchange good, but just the sheer fact that it takes it off, and you've been, and you've been able to clear a troll. And of course, you can still swap out of the supply. It's just a swap between your supply and the main supply.
Right.
But clearing the trolls is better if you can. So anyways, there's that aspect, and then the building aspect, and then paying attention to the statue aspect, and like you had mentioned during the intro, the buried resources, something to pay attention to, where the statues are paying attention to. Don't, if you focus on making a great haul maybe too early, then somebody else can go unbury a statue. And there were I think, at least in the one game that we've played so far, and we haven't looked through every single spell card, we only saw one thing that would potentially let you get a statue back after somebody else taken. Even then you'd have to be ready to go, because literally it was move a statue 2 spaces, and it said that if you put it on a tunnel it was unburied, and if you took it off a tunnel it was buried again. So you would have had to been able to get it totally off of somebody's tunnel and far enough away that you could scoot in and put yours probably on the same turn, or they just would have probably just gone and got it back somehow by building a new tunnel.
Use the spell again too,
or use the spell again, right? If it was still available.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that they did the pyramid with the resource building, and like Jeb mentioned a little bit on, you only get the resources when you build the pyramid, and the Tetris aspect of it, and all the stuff out on the board, and the layers of the mountain, all of that stuff put together to me made it really, really cool. I'm really glad I backed it. I liked it a lot. So yeah, I didn't like the fact that Jeb won, but Gary gave it a thumbs up too, that he enjoyed it. Definitely one that we all looked at and was like, oh yeah, you need to play this a couple times so that you get a feel of. I think most of us just randomly took our starters too. Not much of a strategy on okay, here's what I'm gonna go for. Not a huge variety in the starters anyways, but and you'd probably be able to memorize them pretty fast and know okay, if I start with these two and I take this one, this is what I'm gonna go with for the rest of the cards. Once you get used to the game. But then after that, it's kind of, the randomness is enough to keep it interesting. And also, I thought one of the other things I liked was, which both of us commented at during the game, where they put the temple holes. They thought about those, because there are
there were so many times I wanted I want the farthest point to be it, but
nope. Or even sometimes it was or if it was right here, it was like they perfectly these where we put the circles is gonna be irritating.
Yep.
It really is. So that well done there, because you don't I most of the time it's almost like you're gonna have to move something, not every single time, but and the pedestal / statue thing and the way you were gonna score those was also interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely depending on the hall, you might want to go for that, but then depending on where the level is,
exactly.
So I think I grabbed the very first hall, and it wasn't worth crap without a statue.
Right.
So putting a statue in it was, at least you got some points.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably great for lower level, when lower level statues aren't worth that much either.
Mm-hmm.
But up to the top, you should probably focus on statues, unless you can grab the big one and get it on the.
Well, I think what helped was
altar.
also me getting that the statue in the closest layer towards the center. Like
Well, I got
it
one of those too.
Yeah, but I mean, I got it as well. So
Yeah,
that's
I know.
20 plus the 25
Right,
from
exactly.
the big one. That's a huge jump.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And the other thing you mentioned was if this thing gets up to 5 players, because the tunnels are finite, and even at 3 players we ran into
out of some of them.
the 5 spot ran out pretty fast. The 5L.
The 4L as well.
Yeah, both the L's. It was like, well, because if you think about it, you tuck a L right around something, and you're going to make a square almost every single time, even if it's a small square, and all of the great halls are either a square or a rectangle. So, pretty self-explanatory there. But all in all, I think they did a fantastic job. I don't know if there's any broken parts. I mean, you've heard us say that was our first real playthrough. So
the thing that got me, like when I was sitting there on my turn, I was like, okay, so I need. So if I want to get a statue on a pedestal, that means I need a tie or the hall that has the pedestal thing.
Yep.
I got to build that. But before I do that, I need to get a pedestal, and to do that, I need to get a goblin or a troll who has a pedestal.
Yep.
And before that, I need coins to be able to get those because they're not on the level 1.
Yeah, level 1.
And then it's like, holy crap,
and
how
then,
much you need to do to be able to get it.
And to add to what he just said, and if you're going for something in the middle layers, there's almost no way to not do something without the hammers.
Right.
Because the rubble is all over the place towards the center of the mountain.
Oh, yeah.
So,
lots of rubble.
I mean, you're probably most of the time looking at almost 2 hammers, if not 3, or, I mean, maybe even more if you did like a straight line up there.
Right.
It would be crazy ridiculous. I mean, I almost feel like that would be a waste if you tried to
build a hole or something.
Like if you tried to right by the center of the mountain drop like the 5 long ways, probably from a blocking standpoint, because if you could do that right in front of somebody, they'd have to come all the way around. But you'd need a lot of hammers to do that. But anyhow, well done in my opinion. I liked it a lot. It would definitely be something that's not gonna move from my collection for a while, because I honestly can't think of anything else that I have that's even close to it. Like I said, I think is there anything else that I have that even has like this kind of mechanic?
Not that I can think of.
Scorpius didn't use one of these on the ships, did it?
No, they just had the like where you put the different things. It's like a grid.
Okay.
On their ship.
So I guess Zaya is probably the only thing that I have that Jeb hasn't played.
It.
I've only played it once, and it has, your ship can do different things with the cargo hold and stuff like that. But those are the only games that I can think off the top of my head, and I know there's probably other ones. So I like this is a different puzzle aspect from what I have in anything else on my shelves at the moment. It's also nice to play something with basically no dice and no cards. You have no. I mean.
Hey, that's why we like it, right? Because we don't
roll dice, and besides the beginning when you're drafting your trolls, you have no hand of cards. Yep. So the only cards you have access to through the game are the universal spells. That's it. The rest is literally, which is in itself is kind of like not really heard of.
Yeah.
And reading the expansion with the champions or whatever they're called, all that's going to do is sit in front of you and provide a power. So it's not like a card, no card management, no dice management, like literally purchasing resources. Because I mean, I would almost consider the tunnel a resource too, even though you place it as soon as you buy it. But it's still, something that you have to manage. So yeah, that's it's all I got.
One of the things that Mickey and I both, when we read the book, or the rule book, we both read it the same way. We thought that the pedestal points were initially placed face down. So you didn't know the point value of each of the 3 statues in each layer. And when we were reading the setup, it was like, no, put them face up. So I guess one of the things that I want to ask you guys, if you've played it that way, like I don't know if you've thought of it the same way we did and tried playing it face down, or if any of the designers said anything on why they did it face up instead of face down. I was just curious about that because I thought it would be interesting to have them face down, and then you don't know, you really don't know what people are getting for points. Then
I'm wondering if they put like a difficulty thing in the back or anything, setup changes. This is just setup stuff, but it would be certainly easy enough to randomly put those face down. So it's kind of, I guess it's kind of like how do you want the strategy to work in the game? You play face up, and all of you are going to know which one's the most valuable ones and which ones to run, what to go for. Place them face down, and you could be wasting time.
Exactly.
Getting statues, and maybe everybody runs towards the middle, and then you have a surprise at the end where somebody wins by a point because they flip over the floor because they got it, or whatever.
It's just an interesting variant that you can try out, because I think that would be crazy, because then you're like...
And we both realized what the mistake we read when we were, or what was triggering in our head is it says, when you score it, place it face down in front of you.
Yeah.
And there was another thing that we both read wrong. I don't remember what it was, but when we first read it, we were like, why would you do it like that? And then reread, and we were like, oh, that's because you read it wrong. So I can't remember what it was. So anyways, so things to remember.
One of the things that kept getting messed up in my head was, or that I had to like keep thinking, I was like, oh, I either build a tunnel or take a troll. It's like you can't do, you're not going to be doing both on the same turn. And it's like I'd always get to that phase and I'd be like, I want to do both. So that's one thing. If you can kind of think ahead and keep in mind which one you want to do, that way you don't get tripped up like I kept doing in my head.
We did have the one spell card that allowed.
The one spell one.
And so halfway through the game we realized how good that spell was too.
Right.
It was like, wow, yeah, because it was a cast a spell, build a tunnel, and then it said you still get step 2, whichever way you want to do it. So you could either double build or get a tunnel and a troll, which could be relatively huge. Actually, it's huge either way you do it, because you're going to spend, probably spend resources.
Yeah.
At least hammers or something, or trading in, or however. So you could, even by building, you could get rid of some stuff off trolls if they were full, but potentially. I mean, because you got to build with the minerals, so most likely you're going to take something off a troll. So a very, very powerful spell. We didn't get through, and we didn't even really go through and read them all. This really good job on the spells, I thought. I didn't. There were some that you could tell were really situational, and we didn't really capitalize. But I don't think there was any turn where somebody wasn't eyeballing something like.
Oh yeah,
something
and
good.
Also great job on the spell cards at the very bottom. They also list like instead of an FAQ in the back of the book, they have the stuff that's pretty common. Under there, because we were like, well, what does it mean if we do this? And we looked at the bottom and we were like,
that's what it means.
That's what it says. So, that was good.
Yeah, like definitely little things like that.
Another thing to remember, I don't know if you.
Yeah, nope.
When you place a tunnel. It's very easy to just throw it down and be like, oh, I'm putting my pedestal, and make sure you check what's around it and what's under it, because if you forget, what is it, the rocks underneath it, you got to pay with hammers. So if you just throw it down and you don't really catch it, you'll forget to pay your hammer. And then also look adjacent to it to see if there's workshops, because those are very important in the game, and if you miss it, then you're missing a chance to do more stuff.
I feel like with us, I think we were keyed in on the rubble pretty good and using the hammers, but 100%, at least at the beginning of the game, we were placing stuff and forgetting about the workshops.
Yep.
And as soon as you lay a tunnel, you've opened a door or a side to the workshop, and that determines how many times you can use it. So that's pretty interesting. And also, if you don't remember reading it in the rule book, doesn't matter whose tunnel is touching the opening. once it's open on your turn, that's how many times you can use it as long as it's part of your network. So in other words, what I'm saying is if I've got a workshop here and I open a door on this side and Jeb opens a door on this side, on my turn I can use that twice because it's got 2 openings even though he opened one of the sides.
And on my turn I can use it twice.
Correct, yes. So, and that's kind of a cool feature too.
And another thing that I kept screwing up was the wording for what you can do on each step of your turn. They actually have it in a different color. The first one is use a spell and use a workshop. And I kept thinking it was or.
Right.
And then the second one is place a tunnel or pick a troll. So just keep that in mind that the first step, you can do both of them. So.
And I don't think most people would miss this one, but the only required thing on your turn is the build or buy a troll.
And even in the thing, it said if you don't have the resources to do either of them, which I don't know how you... Well, I guess if it's the very end of the game and you already have 10 trolls, you couldn't pick a troll. And if you don't have the resources to build a tunnel, then it says it's okay. But it's just...
It would be...
You can't...
I feel like it would be unlikely, and I
Right.
too agree with Jeb. I feel like in that situation, it would be one of the last 2 turns.
Right.
Because you would have, like, blown everything on your first round, and it's like, I've maximized, I can't do anything else.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we could be wrong, but I think that's most of the... Either that, or you just haven't played a lot of worker placements yet, and that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was somebody new and not realizing, everybody sitting at the table here has played a decent amount of worker placement games, so you're kind of looking for maximization right from the beginning of the game. How can I get the most resources so that I can buy the next thing that's going to provide me the most resources in the future, et cetera, which is the gist of all worker placer games. That and screwing other people over. I don't think this one, I don't think you get the screw over factor quite as fast in this game, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, it's only when you start getting close to other people, or if you want to like screw them over.
And that was much more later in the game than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
When visually in my mind I was like, oh, you're going to be doing really quick, and that's not the way it happens. And I think that part of that is because of you only do one or the other, build or buy, and you do have a limited. The resources only go so far, and because you're trying to do certain things, you're almost kind of staying a little bit contained.
Right.
You don't want to... Well, I don't know. We haven't played it a ton yet, but, I mean, maybe dart in a tunnel to stick
I would
straight
like
line.
to see that strategy of just dart and unearth as many things in your
as you
tunnels.
can. Yeah, I mean, start from... And then... But, if you do that, then you've got to tiny all the way up to the top. Because it's not like everybody else is just going to use those long... Not just... Hey, Jeb, you can have all the long tunnels yourself. But maybe because if you don't save up the resources, you're not getting the long tunnel either. So, I mean, spending 5 is a lot. I don't know. We're rambling.
Another thing with the screw you is, the spell that lets you move 2, that came up in the beginning of our game. So it wasn't as powerful as it could have been, because if it came up in like the last turn, and you're like the last player to go, you could be like, oh, I think I'll use that to move your statue off of your pedestal. The game ends, and you just lost a ton of points.
Are you allowed to move it off the pedestal?
I thought it said just move 2.
It does, but I don't remember if there was any rules on once it's on a pedestal, can it be taken off? Well, I don't remember.
Even if not, if you have a random statue in your tunnel,
you just in the tunnel, because in the tunnel is worth points, and where it is in the mountain is a lot of thing. That's one of my favorite parts of it was the mountain layers. Because what I don't think we've mentioned yet, or one of the things, we're talking about unearthing all this stuff and all the extra resources and things like that you can get. Those are all on the bottom level, though. I think there might be a couple on level 2. But then once you start getting to the center, there's nothing but rubble.
No, not even on the bottom layer. It's backwards, away from the center. You have to build going backwards to get your resources, and then build forward to get deeper in.
That's true. Yeah, it's almost like you went under and then came up, and it's like, oh, I'm partway through the mountain, and now if to get stuff I need to move back here, which in a lot of ways makes sense because if stuff got buried, it's gonna, it's if something collapsed on it, that's all that stuff's gonna be relatively close to the surface, and once you dig down a little bit more, the only thing left after that point is fossils, and we're not playing a fossil game,
Right.
so it's just the close stuff to the top, and I don't, I could have been, just making that up, but sounded good. Sounded better than what Jeb would have said.
Yeah.
Anything else to remember or
There's
do?
dinosaur bones on my mind now. I was like, that'd be cool to unearth a dinosaur one.
What are you gonna do?
No, so one
dinosaur bone. Then you have to pay something to make it into a hammer.
So, the last thing that I wanted to say was the game in trigger. What I thought was really cool was because I was the one who triggered it in our. Well, no, you triggered. Yeah, you triggered it. I started the first one. You got the second
That's
one.
Correct.
But when I got my 10th one and filled up all my resources on my thing, it kind of like got this countdown going where it was like Mickey and Gary need to use all their stuff and then get their 10th one like as fast as they can, because like once Mickey did it, Gary was like, I need to get the 10th one to get all my resources, or my last 2 turns I can't really do anything.
Yeah, I mean, at the point that he did it, both of us were ready for the 10th card. We stayed pretty even that way.
Yeah.
And I feel like the game kind of pushes you to do that. Like, you use your stuff pretty fast, and it's like you have no... I mean, unless you bought a 1 tunnel on a turn when everybody else bought a troll, I think most of the time somebody's keeping up with it. And, the logic as soon as somebody takes their first one is like, if you're the next player and you're able to, you better have something really, really big planned not to take that extra 3 points. So that was my logic anyways. And I don't know if that was good logic. Perhaps I should have, I got blocked with a statue. Maybe that provides more point than the 3. There's a lot of if, ands, but yeah, that's a, but to elaborate on the end game, I really like how they did that. Finish the round and then take 2 more.
Yeah, if it was finish the round, I wouldn't like it. If it was 1 round, I'd feel like you couldn't really do much in 1 round after.
Well, I feel like if they did the just finish the round, you would almost know, like there was. I mean, you won anyways, but you would have locked it up so hard if nobody else could have finished. It would have been crazy. And I think it makes it more difficult for the people that take the last one to know exactly what everybody else is going to do. That's a lot of trying to figure out what you can buy, what statues you can get, all that for the other people. So it's kind of like, I think I got enough points, let's do it, and hope for the best. I mean, unless it's a runaway situation, but there's not a whole lot of games that let you go 2 more rounds afterwards to make sure. And basically what it does is it really lets you use everything you have and do almost everything you can do. So
that's one of my biggest complaints with like resource management games or engine building games, whatever you want to call them. It's like you build it all the way up and then the game ends, and it's like you can't really use it like to see all the cool stuff you can do. At least in this, you get 2 turns. So.
Well, and we understand that a lot of that is because it's supposed to be that way. It's like if we made the game so that you got to the point where you could do everything, somebody probably would just... That's why many of them feel like, I wish I had 1 more turn.
Right.
This one doesn't really need that. It
was even close to the 2 extra turns.
It was very very good. So I don't really have any.
That's the last thing I wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah, and they are good too.
Yes. I'll let you talk about them. It's your game.
Whatever. One of the, and I don't know if it was, again, I'm sorry I don't remember all the Kickstarter stuff that got added, and I don't know what's in retail, but they put trays in this, and the trays are fantastic. I'm so glad that more and more companies are doing, management for the pieces. Because I just had this on the side, nothing moved, nothing shifted. except the piece that Jeb didn't put in the box.
Oh yeah, I remember I didn't put that piece in the box.
How about you put the piece in the box now, Jeb, or wherever it goes?
Oh, it was on the bottom.
Yeah.
And then the bottom, there's a...
No lid for the bottom, but still, we've had it on its side, and it didn't really... Can you see?
And now everything's falling.
Everything's falling. Anyhow, there's a tray on the bottom, too, for all the loose parts. Everything pops out. It pops in and out real easily, and the bottom tray doesn't need to come out.
Yeah, it doesn't need to come out.
You don't... everything in the bottom tray can either just set beside the board or whatever. This keeps all the other things nice and neat, as well as the tray on Jeb's side, which it has all the resources. I think they do go in a particular way, though. I don't think you can... Right when you were putting these in, like, you can't, like, didn't it not fit this way or something?
Oh yeah, this one can't go with that one because the first player crown sticks up.
Yeah.
So.
I knew there was something that you were like, why isn't this sitting flat? And there's a nice random bag for the pedestals. So, anyhow, that
you might want to throw champions in there as well.
Oh yeah, that kind of little stuff on a game that doesn't. I mean, usually it doesn't. This is going to be the same price retail as other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, hello, FFG.
Falling further behind.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's like if you guys didn't have any freaking good properties. I do have stretch goals and stuff in here because it says Kickstarter version contains all stretch goals and component upgrades. Oh, we did see that in the book. It showed the difference between
the regular version
and the Kickstarter version look like. So, doesn't really hinder gameplay, or obviously, or whatever. So, yeah. So that's it. So, the normal go.
Yep. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. That would be very helpful for feedback to see if you guys are enjoying our content. If you like my jokes, or if you like making fun of me. If there's any games you'd like to see us play, shoot us some title names. We'll try to play them. We've got tons of games, but if there's specific ones that people want to see, we'll definitely try to do it. We got a coffee that if you want to leave any tips to help.
Nobody's ever given us.
Nobody's
a tip.
done it yet.
Nobody's ever given us a tip.
So,
somebody throw a penny. Can we have a penny? I mean, it's probably going to charge you. I mean, it's probably going to cost you more to donate the penny, but it'd be really cool if we got a penny.
Okay.
What? You know what would be cool?
It would.
We'd be so excited. At a quarter. Anyone?
I'd get an email saying that we got a penny donation. I'd be like, I got to find my password for the account.
Okay, so the other thing I just set up was I set us up a Discord. Mm-hmm. So if you're familiar with a Discord, you can search for Booze and Board. It has the logo that Jeb designed with the big beer mug and Booze and Boards on the inside. So you can look up Booze and Boards with Mickey and Jeb if you're on Discord, and you can we'll approve you for the channel as long as you're not a jerk. You won't get kicked off or anything. You can suggest some categories on there. Right now we just have a general category, a rules question category, and a Kickstarter one. Talk about games that are coming up. Obviously, rules questions you can put down, and feel free to put stuff that we don't have a video on, because we've played other games. And if it's a game we haven't played, we'll just say we haven't played that one. We don't know the answer. But there are a lot of games that we played that we might be able to help you with a rules question, even though we haven't done a video on it. Plus, I don't know how long Discord's been out, but I didn't know anything about it. I joined our local comic book shop. One is what me started on it. I like the platform for being able to chat with other like-minded people on stuff. I think it's a little easier than you guys finding us on this Facebook page and waiting for because it's almost like an instant messenger, but you're specifically in whatever you want to talk about. And not only that, but anybody else that's on the thing can help out too. Again, with the rules questions, if somebody else sees it.
Right.
So it's like a forum thing, except it's instantaneous rather than. I mean, obviously you have to wait for somebody to see it pop up on their phone, but it's not like even when you post in BGG. If you're on a game that's not hot right now, you might be waiting for an answer to your question for a little bit.
Yeah.
Or you got to, if it was something that was hot 3 years ago, you have to search through 2,000 things trying to find an answer for something. So at least right now, I think it's pretty neat. A neat platform. He hasn't used it that much yet. I think.
Oh, I've had it for a while. I just never really use it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, not for us.
All right.
But,
so how long's it been out? I didn't know.
Oh, I don't know. I've had it for like a year and a half or so.
And so this guy doesn't make a Booze and Boards one.
No, well,
that's how dedicated he is to this channel, people. All he does is think of how can I ruin this with jokes. Let's not help the fans out with making something that might help them. Let me think of a bad joke or a bad voice that I can say. Let's hear a bad voice, Jeb.
Hello, Mickey.
See? There it is.
No, the Discord groups that I was in when I first got it, like people were talking so much in it that it just so many messages, notifications. I was like, okay, I'm cutting notifications off, and then when I cut those off, I just never had the need to go into the Discord.
And I've already seen that on some of the other ones. So, yes, it can get chatty.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the settings. I'm assuming you can, yes, I want ones on this, and yes, I want, you don't have to shut down all of Discord.
Right. No, I think you can probably
do it by with
yeah.
chat. Anyways, it's a thought.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's annoying, then you just do what Jeb said, turn it off.
But I randomly check every now and then.
Gotcha.
So, but now I'll look more often since we have our own.
He probably won't until I tell him, hey, there's a few people on here, but that's okay. But then if we're rolling, we're rolling. I thought it was a neat thing to try.
No, it's great to have. I'm glad you made it.
Thanks, man. I got a game that was like this tall this week. I did.
Hey, you could have taken a picture and put it on Discord.
Oh, I forgot you could put pictures on there. Yeah, I keep thinking of it as a chat thing.
Oh, yeah.
I did write that I got it.
Oh, okay.
I said it was huge.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
Mickey
This is not The Office.
Mickey got a huge package delivered to him. All right.
That's juvenile jokes.
Yep. All right, so I think that's everything, right?
That's it.
So until next time, see ya.
Boards and booze, booze and boards, with Mickey and Jeb.